What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and you might notice the change of scenery from my normal two positions. Uh, I have the house to myself, or at least one house to myself. Uh, Decided, hey, living room, lighting's a bit better than upstairs. You've seen those dark looking videos? Yeah, that's same house. So I thought to myself, hey, I can talk as loud as I want. The lighting is better. You can actually kind of see me. Um, so yeah, I thought, why not? Let's go for it. So this is NCIS episode. I still cannot remember what episode I'm on. No. You know what? I believe it's episode 10 because Gotham is also on episode 10. I'm pretty sure they were the first two shows to start, so they should be the same. I'm going to say episode 10. And this was a really nice episode. When I first heard the premise of it, when they started talking about it at the beginning, I'm like, wow, this seems like it might be different. It seemed like it might not be as much of a case, but I kind of liked it. It was a change from the usual. It wasn't a simple case where somebody gets killed, somebody in the Navy, go find them, all that stuff. A sailor is dying of leukemia. Older brother died several months earlier. The mom is informed at the beginning of this episode that his sister, who is the likely donor of bone marrow, just died, and the last brother that he has, they can't find him. He come to find out later from Fornell that he was a part of this operation to get this counterfeiting group, and he disappeared. They're not really sure where he is. And it was a different episode. Like I said, the case is a lot different than they normally handle because it's not somebody gets killed, we have to go find it. We have to go find the killer. It's the sailor's dying of leukemia. We need to find the brother for bone marrow. And I like that. It shows that it's not just, oh, well, we got a case. Somebody died. Let's go find the killer. This is a family who is very involved in the military, and the mother's already lost her husband. She lost her oldest son, now her only daughter, and now her second oldest son is dying of leukemia. Her youngest has disappeared. And it's just like this family is suffering enough. We need to help them. We need to find this sailor some bone marrow. But it wasn't straightforward. It wasn't a simple, okay, we found the brother, now let's give him bone. They find the brother after a bit of interesting, FBI agent gets shot and killed, and they find out the brother has also been shot. And then they find the brother, and they bring him in, bone marrow doesn't match. Whoa, that sucks. What else can go wrong? But using Bishop, who is now in Oklahoma with her family, she finds out that there's somebody who does match, but they turned it down. And this guy who's serving a life sentence in Leavenworth for murdering two people. Which I like this story because the guy turned it down because he wants a deal. He's serving a life sentence for killing two people who were actually terrorists. Like they murdered several people. Then he murdered them back. So he's serving a life sentence for that, which kind of sucks. I understand the whole. It's kind of like think of it like a Batman scenario. You can't be judge, jury, and executioner. Leave them to the law type thing. But at the same time, it's like you really didn't feel for this guy at all. Like these terrorists killed people, and he lost a friend of his in that blast. Or I can't remember if it was an explosion or not. But you really didn't feel for him enough to maybe give him like a life with a chance of parole. Just life without parole for killing two terrorists. It seemed a little bit harsh, but then again, it was a straight up murder. It wasn't like it was in self-defense. It wasn't anything like that. He found them and he murdered them. And so they offer him a chance of parole in 40 years, which of course he thinking, you're he realizes that he's the last option, so he's just like, no, I'm going to leave that deal, and gives, of course, not one to negotiate. It's just like, that's it, take it or leave it. But they finally end it with a bit of resolution for him, and Bishop, finds out about his friend that died, and says, this is a chance for you to start anew. This is a chance for you to redeem yourself from what you did, because that isn't you. You're a good person deep down. And so the guy ultimately does end up giving the bone marrow, which, it's. I'm not going to complain because it's a happy ending, but at the same time, it's like, I guess I saw it coming. And so when that happened, I was like, okay. It wasn't. After 13 seasons, I guess I don't really expect that anymore. But it would have been interesting if he didn't give the bone marrow and said, because that's one of the things about this show, is that most of the time it's a happy ending. Like in this case, the guy turns it around, redeems himself, and gives the guy bone marrow, which will help him survive. But that doesn't always happen in life. And like I said, I'm not going to complain about the happy ending, but at the same time, this kind of felt like everything always works out, which NCIS is notorious for. And so that's the only thing about this episode. And it's not just like this episode alone. I was just like, oh my gosh, another happy ending. Like, it's been like that for several seasons now, where it's just like, oh, another happy ending, huh? That always happens in life. Because the shows where there have been a couple episodes, like Criminal Minds was one for sure, that deals in the reality of, not everything always works out. But there have been a couple episodes of NCIS where they try to work everything out for the best, but ultimately it doesn't. Like, it ends poorly for, at least more than one person. But most of the time it's like a very intense episode. It's never like an episode like this where it's just another case. Well, most of the time just another case ends with bad guy getting his comeuppance, families reconciling, or people being saved. It almost always has a happy ending if it's another case. So this isn't like a nitpick for this episode in particular. It's just something that I've started noticing about NCIS recently, like within the past couple of years. So, the ending was well done in that it did give the guy a chance to redeem himself, but also it helps Bishop a little bit because, like I said, she's in Oklahoma dealing with the, Jake cheating on her, which I'm surprised nobody's punched that guy in the face yet. But this is definitely the story that once again has just taken over the entire episode. Which their story for most of the season, like there was the one where he was in India with the bombing, and then there was another one where something was going on. I can't remember that one either. But their story always seems to kind of take over the episode. Like, what's going on with Ellie and Jake? I need to know. And this is another example, because she's back home. Her mother's worried about her. She gets her brother to come check on her. And, they have a nice little brother-sister moment, talking in the attic about stuff. And, he asks her, why you still have the ring. She's like, well, marriages don't just stop working. Like, you have to give it a try. You have to work at it. So obviously she's not, even though she's very upset and she definitely does not want to talk to Jake right now, which, can you blame her? It definitely seems like she is willing to try to work on it. Just at the moment, it's very raw. She crushed her phone with an axe when he tried to call her. The emotions are pretty raw. So I completely understand both sides of it, because I understand why she doesn't want to talk to him right now. It's very obvious. But I also understand the fact that she's not willing to ask for a divorce just yet, because too many people, I think, are just, oh, they cheated on you, get rid of them. Well, sometimes it's just a mistake. Sometimes it's just it happened. There's another side to it. Most of the time, it is a mistake, and they have a lot to atone for. But that doesn't necessarily always mean that, oh, it's over. Sometimes it's the way things work out, and I think a lot of people are too quick to make decisions, and I like the fact that she's not making a decision right now. She's giving it time. She wants to take her space, but they do. Obviously, Gibbs comes down to talk to her and help out with the guy in Leavenworth. But they have this really nice moment where they're out on, she's about to leave the house late at night, and Gibbs is sitting out there on the porch, and they just have this nice moment. I've said before how they kind of feel like they have a father-daughter relationship. Another nice father-daughter moment. He talks about, you have to talk about it, and it's kind of funny because it's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Like, I watch all these shows and I have nobody else to talk about it with, and so this kind of helps me. Like, I can talk about it with anybody who happens to watch this, and then if you leave a comment down below, I'm like, okay, I'll respond, and we can discuss stuff, and you can tell me I'm wrong, and I can tell you you're wrong. But it's more fun that way. Like, it really does. Even in something as simple as TV shows, talking about it really does help. Like, you get to release some of the emotions inside. I know with The Walking Dead, they had that intense, oh, is Glenn dead or not, and blah, blah, blah. That's the only show, like, my mom and my brother watch it too. That's the only show I'm able to talk about with people. If I did not have them to talk about all that with, I probably would have gone insane, because there's a lot of emotions to process there. And it really does help to talk it out. And I've always believed in talking out. Obviously, at some point you do have to take action, or you have to, decide something. But talking really does help sort out your emotions, so it doesn't just fester inside. And so, he says, you have to talk. And she's like, oh, that's rich coming from you. And it's funny how she... First of all, before they get to that, he starts laughing because she talks about how everybody's treating her like she's so fragile. And he's like, he laughs, and she's like, what's so funny? It's just funny coming from you, because it felt like every single day you were calling me up after what happened in Iran, or I think it was Iran. And it's funny because she's like, Gibbs, you got shot. It's one thing to be cheated on, yeah, that hurts. You got shot. You nearly died. That's a little different. Everybody was checking up on you, but he does make the parallel that her family's just worried about her, just like everybody was worried about him. That's how they are with her. It's not a fatal wound, but it is fatal possibly for the marriage. So, that it does make sense why they're worried, and she's too stubborn to accept any help, I think. And it's funny because she says the same thing about Gibbs. He's too stubborn to accept any help, but then he reveals he's been talking to that doctor ever since what happened in Sudan, when he collapsed in the break room. I feel like I already knew he was talking to the doctor. Like, I know they showed a moment where he said he wanted to talk to the doctor, but they haven't actually showed him talking to him. So it was kind of interesting to see that, yeah, he is talking to him. Like, he is talking about what happened. And Bishop didn't even know that he asked that in the first place. So for her, it was just like, what? Like, you're talking to somebody? So it was very nice to see the parallel there. It was nice to see the father-daughter relationship. They really, like, the characters and the actor and actress really have good chemistry on screen. You feel like they have a connection. You feel like they're family. And I mean, most of that comes from the fact that they are very similar. They're both stubborn. They're both, they're not willing to show emotion around people, and so it's nice to see that they are making that connection, and they are utilizing that in the show. Um, but once again, like it kind of ends with no real, I guess, closure is kind of the right word for this. Uh, you see she is coming back to DC, so I was a little bit worried she might be leaving the team because she doesn't want to be in DC anymore, but she is coming back. And but things are still uncertain with Jake. She's still not sure. She's still giving it time, and I like that. I like that she's not rushing to a decision because most of the time rushing into something leads to bad stuff. So, it is good to see that they're taking their time with this. They're not immediately deciding, okay, well, she's done with Jake or she's not done with Jake. It's still up in the air, and that's how life is. And like I was saying earlier, sometimes the show can feel a little bit unrealistic when everything goes right and oh well, this they found this clue and that just happened to be this guy who they happened to see earlier and now they meet this guy. And a lot of time it can feel a little bit like coincidental that everything just happens to go right and they catch the bad guy and save the day. So it's nice to see whenever things don't end on a good note and kind of it feels a bit more realistic. And this is definitely a situation that feels a lot more realistic. So excited for next week. I don't know if there's one next week. There might be. I didn't check. But I'm excited for the next episode. I'm really excited to see where they take Jake and Ellie's story. But yeah, this season's really impressing me, especially because it's so far into this show. 13 seasons and still holding up very well is very impressive. But especially on the personal life level, like oftentimes you can get so monotonous in the personal life, like a certain Bones other show, where just everything in the personal life is just, oh, I've seen this before in this show. But this is something that we haven't really dealt with that much, mainly because we haven't really had a married couple in the show before. So, I mean, very, very well done. Some other fun points that I do want to point out because they add to the fun of the show, and oftentimes that is where the charm in the show comes from. Whenever the case is maybe a little bit or maybe the personal life stuff is a little bit dull, the show always has those moments that just, they make me laugh. They really, they have these running jokes that if you haven't been watching the show, you'll be like, I don't get what that means. One in particular, they brought Fornell back, which is always nice to see Fornell and Gibbs in the same show, in the same episode. Like, it's always fun when they're together. They make quips at each other. He has a couple moments with Donoso. One moment in particular, he's like, my least favorite. And then McGee steps up. He's like, well, second least favorite, because McGee and Diana and that whole thing. And then they have Fernell talking about Emily and how her cooking is like worse than Diana's, and that moment with Gibbs where it's like, you remember Diana's cooking? It's like, yeah. It's like, she's worse. And then they both laugh about it. So it's always nice to see Fernell on the show. It really adds a bit more to it. But you have more stuff with McGee. He and Delilah mentioned she doesn't make an appearance in the show, but I talked about it earlier, a few episodes ago, where I like the fact that they're still together. There's a relationship cultivating, because honestly, for a while it just seemed like every other episode Tony had some new girl. This past episode is like, oh, it seems like he had a heartwarming moment with this girl, and then the next episode is like, oh, things with her didn't really work out. But then again, he keeps talking about Zoe, and I guess I missed that episode where they decided they were getting together. I thought they had stopped at some point. I don't know. I need to go back and watch something. Maybe. I don't know. That's a lot to watch. But I don't know. It's nice to see these team members who kind of have rough luck in the love department succeeding a bit. And it's nice to see, especially McGee and Delilah, just because they are a good fit. So it's another good episode. Excited for the next episode, like I said. So good job, NCIS. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you at the next review. Peace out.